All right, welcome to Riley's Documents and Drafts, the podcast where we look at some really interesting documents, especially in the United States. We drink some really cool beers along the way, and then we do a couple other cool things. This I'm trying to combine the audio version and the new YouTube version, so bear with me. Today we will be reading. Um, Probably Article 2 and 3 of the Constitution and the background, obviously. And we're not gonna drink a particular beer today. We're gonna talk about the beers I had on my Florida trip, and then we'll look at SCOTUS blog and some interesting Supreme Court cases. So that's kind of how we do it. I appreciate you tagging along with me. So as you look on the screen, these are the two books we use primarily. 50 Core American Documents, required reading by students, teachers, and citizens from the Ashbrook Press, which is from Ashland University, and Our Nation's Archives, History of the United States and Documents, edited by Eric Brun and Jay Crosby. And if you look really closely, you can see I paid $12.98 at Barnes & Noble for that. But we're going to use those two books pretty much. And again, I said we're going to drink some cool beers along the way and read the Constitution and talk about some Supreme Court cases. Okay, again, the music's provided by Soundstripe. All right, here we go. So let's talk about the Constitution. If you want to read the Constitution, one of the best places to get it is the National Constitution Center. Just Google that, and if you get a chance to ever go there, it's a phenomenal place. So again, I'm going to give you the background of the Constitution. Here we go. Ready? In May 1787, 42 delegates from 12 states, Rhode Island refused to participate, converged in Philadelphia to try to hammer out a constitution for new, stronger federal government. For 4 months in sweltering heat and through impassioned debates, the many and diverse perspectives of the delegates clashed and sought compromise to find common ground to achieve the common goal of preserving the nation. States' rights, slavery, the authority of an executive, concerns about small states being dominated by large states, westward expansion, liberty, and many other issues were all touched upon and addressed in the final document. Some of the leading figures of the revolution, including George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, participated, as well as the leading young political thinkers, James Madison, James Wilson, and Alexander Hamilton. The convention was held in secret with sentries at the door. Washington, who would later call the gathering a miracle, was unanimously selected as president of the convention. In the end, not every delegate was satisfied, nor every issue fully resolved. But a document that delegates from all 12 states could support was completed and put forward to the nation for approval. On March 14, 1789, a day which had been fixed from starting operations of a national government under the new Constitution, 11 states had ratified the Constitution. North Carolina ratified it in November 1789, and Rhode Island in May 1790. In 1791, responding to widespread concerns of provisions protecting individual liberties to be included, Congress added the Bill of Rights. Although many people expected the Constitution to be a temporary fix for the struggling country, it has withstood the test of time and provided the foundation for American government for more than 2 centuries and served as a model for the countries across the globe. All right, if you want to listen to Article 1, it is in episode 43, which you're going to find on Spreaker.com, Spotify, and iHeart, and Podcast Addict, I believe. It's only audio. And then we did, and that's one before the Declaration of Independence. All right, here we go. Article 2 is all about the executive. Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during a term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature may therefore direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons, of whom one at least shall not be inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit and seal to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such a majority have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president, and if no person have a majority, then from the five highest on the list, said the House shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by the states, the representatives from each state having one vote. For this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, and after every choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain two or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. That's how the president gets elected. It has changed via the 12th Amendment. We'll get to that a couple episodes down the road. Here are the presidential duties and responsibilities. No person except, first. No person except a natural born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of the Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In the case of removal of the president from office or his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president, and Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and vice president, declaring what officers shall then act as president, and such officers shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or president elected. This has been tweaked with the 25th Amendment, which we'll get to when we get to the amendments. The president shall at stated times receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And then George Washington added, so help me God. Section 2. Here are the duties. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states, and when called into actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have the power to grant reprieve and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper, in the President alone, in the court of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have the power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Section 3. He shall from time to time give to Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses, or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them, with respect to time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all officers of the United States. Section 4. The President and Vice President and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. So that is Article 2 of the Constitution. Now I know we're missing some music, so give me a second here. There we go. Again, the music is provided by Soundstripe. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to talk about some beer. Whoops, wrong way. So I went on a trip, a family trip to Florida. So we're going to do this a little different this time. I'm going to give you my the beers that I drank while I was down there. I'll give you my ratings of each beer. And then the next time we'll talk about specific beers. Hope that's okay with everybody. All right, so we went to a place called the Brass Tap, which I believe is a chain in Lakeland. I had Florida Avenue Dead Parrot Lager, which was Mexican, which was an American lager with a little lime flavor, which I didn't realize at the time. It doesn't say that. But if I'm rating it okay, good, or excellent, I'm going to put it somewhere in between okay and good. We had also had Three Daughters Beach Blonde Ale. I'm going to rate that good. We had Golden Isles Looking Alive Pony Boy, which I believe was a red, which I'm going to list as good. All of those are Florida breweries, by the way. The next place we went to was a place called Front Page Brewing, which is in downtown Bartow. And it's a cool little, we played trivia there. Nice bar, good space, food trucks. So the first night we were there, we had pizza. And the last night we were there, we had Thai food. I had both times we were there, because they're hard to find, I had a black IPA. So I had, it's called Bartow After Dark, and I'm going to rate it somewhere between good and excellent. So it was, I mean, I had it twice at two different times. The next place we went was a place called Don Ford, which is on the St. Petersburg Pier. So if you ever get down there, there's a big pier. The Salvador Dali Museum is down there. There's another museum down there. There's a little private airport. It's a cool little area. We did walk out to the end, and there's a rooftop bar at the end. We didn't do that one, but so anyway, at Don Ford, I had the Cigar City. Now, Cigar City is a Tampa staple, and it was called the Maduro, named after a cigar wrapper. And it was a brown, obviously. Uh, it was good. Also there, I had a Three Daughters Beach Blonde Ale. So you can see the Beach Blonde Ale rates between good and excellent. Um, Cigar City Maduro again was good. We went to a place in. We also went to a place called Sunken Gardens, which I guess has been an attraction since the 1930s. It's actually a really cool botanical garden. Um, you think those things are tourist traps, but it was very good. In Lakeland, we went to a relatively new place called Swan Brewing. Had there what's called Telemundo, which is a Mexican lager. I mean, it was like 9,000 degrees. You're going to start with something cold and wet. I'm going to rate it good. Um, and then the second beer I had there was a Cliff Clavin, which was a red, which I'm going to rate. That's the one beer I thought that was excellent at Swan Brewing. We were too early for food trucks, but they have food trucks. They're right in downtown Lakeland, which is a kind of a re-gentrified downtown. They have take you around on these little tiny buses, open air buses, and Lakeland has a couple cool things. They have Hollis Gardens, which was nice. They have the new Lakeland City Park, which is at Lake Bonnet, was voted the number one city park in the country. And I mean, if you have if your city's thinking about doing a city park, they need to go down and take a look at what Lakeland did. It's pretty amazing. Then we went to Kissimmee to meet some friends, and we went to a chain called Rock and Brews, and I had a Rolling Dirty Irish Red by Brewbus. It was good. It was almost excellent. It was not as good as the Cliff Clavin, but it was really good. I also had and I forgot to write it down. I remember the name because it was called Baby Cakes, and it was Baby Cakes Oatmeal Stout. It was very good for a stout. I don't know who brews it. I'm sorry. And then we went to a place called Yeoman's. And of course, Rock and Brews is rock and roll themed, and then Yeoman's is English themed. So there's English pool tables, and there's darts, there's stand up, there's tabletop shuffleboard. Then they had 4 or 5 golf simulators, which I thought that was kind of cool. Pretty good beer selection, a pretty relaxed vibe. And again, we were a little bit early. The crowd was just starting to come in. And we had Harps, and I'm always going to put Harps as a good, easy drinking uh, beer. Um, it's kind of funny that it's an Irish beer, but and I apologize for all this looking around. Just need to see where we stand. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to read Article 3 of the Constitution. We have time, so we're going to read Article 3. Article 3 has to do with the judicial power of the United States. So here we go. It's very short. And so we might read Article 4 as well. We might be able to finish it, actually. Here we go. Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of their supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and the treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, or consuls, and to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state and the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens, or subjects. And they still needed to qualify that with the 11th Amendment, which we'll get to later. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crime shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such a place or places as Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or the confession in open court. The Congress shall have the power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during life of the person attainted. Here's Article 4. We'll just do real quick. This is kind of how states are supposed to treat each other. Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe in the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all the privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered upon to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but should be delivered upon the claim of the party to whom such service and labor may be due. That's the Fugitive Slave Clause. Section 3. New states may be admitted by Congress into this union, but no new states shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any states be formed by the jurisdiction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislatures of the state concerned, as well as of Congress. So you're probably not, even though I know, I think it's Eastern Oregon and Northern California have talked about trying to become separate states. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, look at the difficulty that would. Oh, sorry. Congress shall have the power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to the prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. Section 4. The United States shall be guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. We might as well finish. It's very short, so we're going to finish Articles 5, 6, and 7. Article 5 is how to amend the Constitution. Article 5, the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislature of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid in all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution. When ratified by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states, or by convention in 3/4 thereof, and of one of the other mode of ratification may be proposed by Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. So you have to have 2 senators. That's equal suffrage. Every state has to have 2. So some people that want the Senate to now be by population, you would have to amend the Constitution. And the other part was can't deal with slaves till 1808. All right, Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of the Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. The Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuant thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution of laws or any states to the contrary notwithstanding. That's the Supremacy Clause. The senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Article 7. The ratification of the convention of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of the Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. Done in convention by unanimous consent of the states present to the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, and the 12th in witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names. And then it's everybody that signed. That is the Constitution of the United States. Our nation's archives in the history of documents by by Eric Bohn and Jay Crosby. That's correct. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do, if I can find it all, is we are going to. So anyway, we've read the Constitution. We've talked about some beers. Now we're going to look at some cases. Let me see real quick where we stand. Okay, we've got like 10 minutes. Okay, so we're going to look at just a couple real quick. This is Anderson versus Dunn, 1821. Here's the facts of the case. This is from oye.org, by the way. Facts of the case. Anderson attempted to bribe a member of Congress to receive favorable treatment from the government. The House ordered its sergeant-at-arms, Dunn, to arrest Anderson and bring him to the House, where he was reprimanded by the Speaker for his contempt of Congress. Anderson then brought an action against Dunn for assault and battery and false imprisonment, claiming that the Constitution did not vest in Congress the power to punish for contempt. Here's the constitutional question. Did Congress have the power to punish non-members for contempt? Conclusion, yes. Though the contempt power will not be found in the Constitution in plain terms, necessity compels it. The power is inherent in the structure and purpose of Congress. The absence of such power will lead to a total loss of power, exposing Congress to every indignity. All right, I got to pick up the music again. It's again provided by Soundstripe. All right, so that is Anderson versus Dunn. This is Barron X. Rel Tiernan versus the Mayor of Baltimore. February 9th, 1833. Here's the facts. Baltimore wharf owner John Barron alleged that construction by the city had diverted water flow into the harbor area. He argues that the sand accumulation in the harbor deprived Barron of deep waters, which reduces his profit. He sued the city to recover a portion of his financial losses. The trial court awarded him $4,500 in damages, with the state appellate court struck down. Here's the constitutional question. Does the Fifth Amendment deny the states, as well as the national government, the right to take private property for public use without justly compensating the property owner? Well, what's the conclusion, oye.org? Oh boy, unanimous. All right, writing for the unanimous court, Chief Justice Marshall found that the limitations on the government articulated in the Fifth Amendment were specifically intended to limit the power of the national government, citing the intent of the framers and the development of the Bill of Rights as an exclusive check on the federal government. Marshall reasoned that the Supreme Court had no jurisdiction in the case since the Fifth Amendment was not applicable to the states. That's correct. That's why we have to have a 14th Amendment later on. This meant that Barron was not entitled to damages for his property lost from the city under the Fifth Amendment provision of just compensation for government taking. Oh, that's interesting. One more quick one. Briscoe versus Bank of Kentucky. This was 1837. Facts of the case. Kentucky authorized a state-owned and operated bank to issue banknotes that circulated as currency. The bank gave Briscoe the notes in exchange for a promissory note. Briscoe failed to repay, so the bank sued him. Briscoe claimed that the bank, and thus Kentucky, had violated the Constitution. Question: by issuing notes in currency, did the bank violate the constitutional prohibition in Article 1, Section 10 that says, no state shall emit bills of credit? Conclusion: the court rejected Briscoe's argument. The clause for prohibiting bills of credit applied to notes issued indirectly through a corporation, but the bank had issued the notes on its own credit and not on the credit of the states. All right, so there are 3 cases from oye.org. So I hope you enjoyed those. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to look at SCOTUS blog. So what kind of time we got left? Yeah, we got about 8 minutes left, so that's perfect. So here it says, the court will decide several notable cases in the 20. This is from SCOTUS blog by Amy Howe. July 28th, on July 28th. The court will decide several notable cases in the 2025 term on such issues on bans on transgender athletes, voting rights, and capital punishment. Here's a breakdown of the cases that they're willing to hear. Here in brief are some of the most important cases. Little versus Hecox. The court will hear a case brought by Lindy Hecox, a transgender woman who wanted to compete on a women's track and cross country team at Boise State. She asked a federal court to bar Idaho from enforcing its ban against her. The U.S. Court of Appeals and the Ninth Circuit agreed that the law violated the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection. West Virginia versus BPJ. The court will hear a case by a 14-year-old transgender girl who has begun to receive puberty blockers and hormone therapy, seeking to be able to compete on a girls' sport team at her middle school. U.S. Court of Appeals ruled last year that West Virginia's ban violated Title IX, federal law prohibiting sex discrimination in educational programs and activities. Here's another one. Plaintiff in Childs versus Salazar, practicing Christian who says that she sometimes works with clients who want to discuss topics that implicate Christian values about human sexuality and the treatment of their own body. As a licensed counselor, she says she believes clients can accept the bodies that God has given them and find peace. And the law violates her First Amendment right to free speech, to freely exercise her religion by barring her from helping them to do so. It's interesting. Joseph Smith was convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of Dirk Van Dam. Sent it back to the court to clarify how it reached a conclusion that Smith was intellectually disabled. Louisiana versus Calais. The court will hear oral arguments for a second time in a challenge to Louisiana's most recent congressional map. A group of Louisiana voters who described themselves as non-African American argued that the map, which created a second majority black district in the state, was unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. There's a campaign finance case. Okay, so that's all kind of interesting. This is kind of what's going on today. Like The Shadows of the Emergency Docket by Daryl Harawa, I think. July 28th. I apologize if it's wrong. The um, 2024 term revealed a stark contrast between the court's merits in the emergency docket and capital cases. While capital defendants largely prevailed in merit cases, they consistently lost when seeking last-minute relief. As public attention focused on the emergency rulings in the Trump-related cases, the court's capital docket went largely unnoticed, quietly allowing the machinery of death to keep turning. Emergency docket. Trump's administration urges Supreme Court to pause order requiring payments of grants linked to DEI initiatives. This is by Amy Howe, July 24th. The Trump administration has asked the court to stay a distinct district court order requiring the National Institute of Health to pay grants linked by the Trump administration with DEI initiatives. According to the government, the justices need to act so as to prevent district judges from elevating their own policy judgments over those of the executive branch. Rights and Responsibilities. This is by Richard Garnett, July 25th. Is religious freedom of possible state schools? Supreme Court recently affirmed that parents have constitutional rights to make at least some decisions about whether children are taught in public schools, about what their children are taught in public schools. The case is about more than curriculum, though, and raises fundamental questions about what religious freedom means and what schooling is for. All right, so that is SCOTUS blog. So we are pretty much done for today. So we'll see where we are. Perfect. All right. So again, thanks for listening to and watching, hopefully, Riley's Documents and Drafts, the podcast where we look at important historical documents, especially to the United States, drink some really cool beers along the way. We did it a little different this time. We didn't pick a particular beer. We read from Our Nation's Archives, The History of the United States and Documents, Articles 2 through 7 of the U.S. Constitution. So next on the docket, we'll probably Address in Favor of the Constitution by Ben Franklin. The Tree of Liberty Must Be Refreshed by Thomas Jefferson, maybe something else. So that was good. We drank, let's see, several beers. Florida Avenue Dead Parrot Lager, which I think I ranked between okay and good. Three Daughters Beach Blonde Ale, which I would rank somewhere between good and excellent. Golden Isles Look Alive Pony Boy, which I would rank good. Front Page Bartow After Dark Black IPA, which I would rate as good to excellent. Cigar City Maduro, which was a brown ale, which I would rate as good. Swan Brewing in downtown Lakeland. Telemundo Mexican Lager was good. Cliff Cleveland Red Ale was excellent. Rock and Brews in Kissimmee had Rolling Dirty Irish Red by Brew Bus, which was good. And Crybabies Oatmeal Stout, which was also good. And then Harp Lager at Yeoman's, which was good. So that was the beer. We talked about several Supreme Court cases and so what was currently going on at the court. So I appreciate everybody playing along with me trying to do this. So we are finished for today. Hope to see everybody the next time. I am so you can find us the audio version on Spreaker.com and on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and on Podcast Addict, and then this little video version on YouTube under Documents and Drafts. I hope it worked. I have no idea. We'll find out in a couple when I post it in here shortly. So I hope everybody had a great time, and we'll see you next time. Thanks and good night.